Hi there, my name is James, and this is a cautionary tale. It started years ago. I can still remember the day I was driving home after a long day of work and was eager to get home and see my wife, Sarah. I was sitting at a red light waiting for it to change. As soon as it turned green, I can remember looking both ways before slowly rolling through the intersection when suddenly I felt something slam into me and cause my car to flip and roll. When I woke up, I was in an ambulance, and I found out that a drunk driver had run through the light and had hit me. The pain was terrible, and I spent a full week in the hospital before I was finally allowed to go home. Even when I went home, I was still suffering. Both of my legs were broken and my body was severely bruised. It was months before I could return to work, and I still have a limp to this day. The only consolation was that we were able to sue the drunk driver and were awarded enough money to cover my medical bills, as well as a large sum of money to cover any future expenses. It didn't make things okay, but it helped. After the medical bills were covered, we weren't sure what to do with the rest of the money, so we put it into a savings account and decided that we would figure out what to do with it later. So as I returned to work, I struggled to help my wife with the chores around the house. Sadly, my work shifts were all I could handle at the time, and so my wife suggested that my mother-in-law move in with us and help. At first she was a blessing, as I would come home from work exhausted and barely able to stand. I would walk into the house using my cane and just make it to the couch before I needed to sit and rest before doing anything else. It was a relief to see the house was clean and that dinner was ready for my wife and I to enjoy. By the end of the second week, my mother-in-law began asking if we could leave her a few dollars here and there to help pay for cleaning supplies or groceries so that she didn't have to use her own money. She was on a fixed income, and my wife promised me that she would take care of it so that I wouldn't have to worry about it. I trusted the two of them and focused on my physical therapy as well as my mental therapy too. The accident had taken a great toll on me both physically and mentally. So I knew that I had some serious work to do. And so things went smoothly for a few weeks. I would do my best to work a full shift at work, and when my wife and I would come home, my mother-in-law would be there waiting for us. She would keep the house spotless and make meals for us. Occasionally, my father-in-law would join us and we would have a nice family meal together. As far as I could tell, things were going great. That is, until my mother-in-law made a comment one day that caught me off guard.
You know, it's funny. I know both you and Sarah are working full-time, but back when my husband and I were your age, we were struggling to keep money in the bank account, even though we were both working long hours. We were constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I don't know how you two do it.
Well, we do all right for ourselves, but it doesn't hurt that there's about $300,000 in the account from my settlement. The look of shock on her face told me that she had no idea that we had that much money.
You have how much money in your bank account? And you aren't doing anything with it?
Yeah, we do. Although it's only in there because we haven't decided what to do with it yet. We do intend to invest it at some point, but haven't gotten around to it yet. She nodded, and then went about serving dinner for the rest of us. I was a bit confused as to why she was asking about our finances. I later found out from my wife that she lent her mother her debit card from time to time, so that if she needed to buy things from the store, that she could. At the time, this didn't bother me, as I figured that if I couldn't trust my in-laws, then who could I trust? And so, things kept going on like this. Over time, my legs got stronger, and I needed my cane less and less. However, it all came to an abrupt end when I decided that since I was making such great progress in my healing, that I should buy myself something to celebrate. I spoke with my wife, of course, and she agreed that it would be a great idea to buy a treadmill. It would be something that both of us would enjoy using, and it would help me to continue to heal. With my wife in agreement, I went down to the wellness store and picked out a treadmill that would be perfect. To my surprise, though, when I went to purchase it, my card got declined. Embarrassed and worried, I called up my bank to find out what was going on. Hi there. I just tried to buy a treadmill, and it wouldn't go through. Is there a reason? Well, there isn't any money in that account, sir. Maybe you intended to use a different account? No money? That was impossible. There was over $300,000 still in that account. Panicking, I then called my wife, who was at home. Hey, honey, did you move the money out of the account? I just tried to buy the treadmill we talked about and the account is empty.
Empty? How is that possible? Wait, oh no, I think I might know.
What are you talking about, Sarah? Do you know where the money is?
My mother has been talking lately that she needs a new car, and I was wondering how exactly she was going to afford it. but I can't imagine that she would take all of the money.
I quickly hurried home just in time to see my mother-in-law pull up as well in a fancy luxury car. In the back seats were shopping bags from designer stores. From inside our home, my wife and father-in-law came rushing out as well.
Mom, what on earth did you do?
Oh, don't worry. I just spent a little bit of money since you and James weren't using it. I figured that I would put it to good use. What do you think of my new car?
Good use? That was our money that we were saving. How could you possibly think that it's okay for you to take?
Relax. I'm sure my husband can pay you back some of it.
The hell I will. I can't believe you would do something like this. You're going to return every last thing you bought and then give them back their money immediately.
But I'll never be able to afford a car like this again if I do that. I deserve it.
She was whining, but there was no way that any of us were going to allow her to get away with it. However, before any of us knew what she was doing, she hopped into the car and sped off. None of us could believe it. We all looked at one another and knew what we had to do, but were hesitant. That's when my father-in-law pulled out his cell phone and made a call. My wife and I looked at one another confused, but he assured us that he had taken care of it. Within an hour, the police that my father-in-law called picked her up, and they were holding her at the station. My wife and I wanted to go and pick her up and question her, but my father-in-law insisted that we let her stay in jail overnight. As it turned out, he had a friend in the police department that he had asked him to detain her overnight to teach her a lesson. In the morning, we went and brought her home. As soon as she was in our house, she broke down and apologized.
I'm so sorry. I got carried away. I just saw how much money you had in your account and I couldn't help myself. Please, will you forgive me?
Sarah and I exchanged glances of concern.
You can start by giving me back my debit card. We'll have to change our PIN numbers, of course, and you're going to return everything that you bought.
Nodding, she agreed. It was quite a hassle to track down all the stores that she had went to, but we managed to get all of them. Getting the dealership to take the car back was the biggest challenge, but after we explained how she had used our money to buy the car, they relented and finally allowed us to return it as well. So in the end, we were able to recover all of the money that she had stolen, and it had become a life lesson for us. My father-in-law kept a tight leash on my mother-in-law from that moment on. He never allowed her to have more than $50 on her at any given time. He had lost all trust in her, and so did we. She was no longer allowed into our home unless we were there. In the end, it all turned out okay, but we were lucky that my father-in-law knew someone on the police force. If he hadn't, there was no telling what my mother-in-law might have done. Thanks for watching. Please, like the video for the algorithm.